this is really useful, because if people said, like, what is the practical aspect of studying prediction and talking about prediction, the practical aspect would be to know where you are on that spectrum, okay? To historically understand how predictions are made, and they were made, and how they are made, and to have a little bit of a better perspective on evaluating the likelihood of truth in some prediction.
So I think that people sometimes assume that acting freely is a matter of not being in a deterministic system. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's not at all clear that that's true. So one quick way to see it is to imagine that our cognitive systems are not deterministic. Instead, what happens is that we have some quantum event determine what's going to happen. We basically have the quantum equivalent of a coin toss that decides what we're going to do. Would we thereby be free? No. We would just be slaves to the outcome of our quantum coin toss. So acting freely is not a matter of escaping determinism. Philosophers disagree about just what it means to act freely. But one respectable view is that being in a deterministic world, a fully deterministic world, is compatible with being free. And the reason for that is analogous to a situation in which you have a friend and you know her really well, and you know that she loves to go to the movies on Friday. And you predict, and do so very accurately, that this Friday she's going to go to the movies. Does that mean that she did not act freely when she went to the movies? No. It just means that you were very good at predicting how she was going to exercise her freedom.
So does this get to, in other words, we already covered physics, but now let's go to life science, okay? So a lot of people say that the 21st century is the century of the brain, okay, and of understanding the brain, and we understand very little about it, okay? So if we got to the point where we understood the human brain as well as we understand the universe, albeit that's quite imperfectly, okay, but we can make pretty good predictions from physics, but in a kind of a priori way, and saying what word am I going to say next, right? If you had a perfect MRI and CT scan of my brain, you could figure out where my hand was going to go next, even though I don't know. Okay, so in some world where biology basically becomes physics, does that bear on this free will and determinism story? In other words, if you could actually determine what it is that causes what we perceive to be free will.
I think that whether it does or doesn't depends on the philosophical question of what free will is, but not on how good our science gets.
Okay.
So I think the main issue is whether you think of science as telling us just what will happen, or whether you think of science as telling us what must happen.
What about what might happen? Because right now it's what might happen.
The might can apply to both cases.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, this is one option for what will happen, but you can also say this is one option for what must happen. So it's the difference between a prediction like the one in which I said my friend is going to the movies tonight, where I didn't say she had to, I just said that she would. So think about the brain scan you were describing. So suppose that the machine issues the prediction that I'm about to twitch my finger. Was that prediction that I would, or was that prediction that I had to? If it was just that I would, then it says nothing about free will, because what the machine might be doing is issuing an accurate prediction about the way in which I'm going to exercise my free will. If the prediction instead is that's what he must do, well, then your science is settling the question of free will. Then your science is telling us that we're not free. But as far as I can tell, when you look at the equations themselves, the equations of physics, there's nothing about like predictions about what must be the case. It's just predictions about what will be the case. So my impression is that physics taken straight does not speak to the issue free will, in that it doesn't matter how deterministic physics gets. I mean, of course, the more deterministic it is, the more useful it'll be in terms of knowing what will happen. But again, that's a separate issue from the issue of free will.
Reading about the John Snow Club.
Learn more at predictionx.org, where you can stay up to date on all of our latest offerings and interviews.